Hello, good afternoon. I'm Isaac with Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership. Tonight's event, we're going to be discussing voter registration and also the census. I also want to introduce our guest and our panelists for the night. The event organizer for tonight is Miles J. He is a youth advocate, community organizer. He's also the co-founder of Chess's Life, and he is the founder of Zulu Boxing. Erica Putro with the League of Women Voters of Greater Youngstown. She also is the Trumbull representative of the Valley Votes Initiative and is a Mahoning Valley school teacher and community volunteer. Also with us is Annette D. McCoy. She is a leader for education, senior rights, and climate justice reform. She is the Trumbull County NAACP president and has been since 2012. She also served as second vice president for the state NAACP for 2015 through 2017, and also is the founder of NEO Multicultural Arts Committee, which is a nonprofit organization designed to educate youth through the arts. Also with us is Barbara Finnessy. She is a community advocate, a volunteer, and founder of Citizens Uniting Citizens, which is a nonprofit with a focus to help formerly incarcerated folks. Her organization works to assist them with getting Social Security cards and other identification they need to help find jobs and other opportunities. The focus is on reuniting people with their families and community. And finally with us is Liz Nalepa.
Correct. Got it in one.
It's because I'm Italian. I assume you're Italian with the last
I am
name.
Polish.
Polish. Wow. I assume because of the vowel ending. I'm sorry. All right. But anyway, she's a member of the League of Women Voters, Greater Youngstown, leader organization for the Valley Votes Initiative locally in partnership with Ohio Votes. So tonight's, and also myself, I'm Isaac. I work with Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership. I'm also a member of the Trumbull County Census Complete Count Committee, and I graduated from Youngstown State. So tonight's event, we're going to focus on information regarding voter registration. We're going to examine basically the process and the changes that we've seen occur due to COVID. And basically, if you want to vote by mail, tonight is a good opportunity to learn more about that process. So I'm going to open it up to our panelists to discuss basically what the process looks like this year, and if you want to vote, how to make sure you can vote either at the poll, if you want to do early in voting at the poll, if you want to vote by mail, what does that process look like? And if Liz wants to take that question.
Sure. So I think that voting by mail is new to a lot of people. I know I personally had never voted by mail before the primary, but by the time that early voting was something that I was thinking about, due to the pandemic, all of the polls were closed. I couldn't vote early in person, and it wasn't clear that we were going to have in-person polls, so I decided to vote by mail. In the state of Ohio, there is currently litigation. It looks like it's dead in the water, but as of right now, at this moment today, you have to request an absentee ballot using a paper form. You can't do it online. And all you would do is fill out the absentee ballot application, which you can find at your County Board of Elections website, or you can find it at the Secretary of State's website in both English and in Spanish, and return it to your Board of Elections, either by mail or in person. And I apologize, I'm a Mahoning County resident, so I have our Board of Elections memorized. It's 3450 Oak Hill Avenue. Does anybody else know the Board of Elections in Trumbull County?
I know it's on Niles Road, but I don't know the address.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I got it right here.
It's not on Niles Road. I'm sorry. It's not on.
No.
That's not Niles Road.
Youngstown Road.
Youngstown Road.
It's on Youngstown Road, right? Yeah, 29. Right. 2947 Youngstown Road, southeast. It's right there. There's like a driving school right next door. It's out there just beyond. I don't know, there's a Rite Aid out there too, but another thing I want to say about the absentee ballot applications is, we're in the window of time where, we want to start thinking about making sure that if we are going to vote absentee because of the, we've noticed that some of us who have ordered things or whatever, we sent things through the mail, that the swiftness of the mail is not always what we are used to it being. And so I think the thing to underscore here is that while when you look up the deadline for submitting an absentee ballot application for being able to vote by mail, then you technically can submit that until October 31st at noon. However, you need to factor in the possibility, the idea that you need to allow for the ballot to be mailed to you. And if that process is at all, any slower than normal, certainly your ability to get that ballot back and then return it in time might be delayed if you wait until the last minute. So all that just to say, if anyone listening is interested in voting absentee ballot by mail, then I absolutely encourage them to do that, to make that request soon. If they return that absentee ballot application by mail now, then on October 6th, which is also the first day of early in-person voting, when those ballots start getting mailed out, then I think you would be able to expect that your ballot would be mailed to you with plenty of time for you to complete it and return it, and not have any anxiety about whether or not you were going to get your ballot returned on time.
This is Annette, and I want to also comment that with the forms themselves, they can be extremely difficult, especially for certain people. So prior to you filling out, and we've assisted probably over 400 or 500 seniors in senior communities filling out the absentee ballots to ensure that the information is correct. Also, once you mailed in your ballot, I would also within a week call to follow up to ensure that they received your ballot, because in the general election, a lot of the ballots were mailed in and for the request for absentee ballots, and people did not receive the ballots in return. They were held up because there were some errors on the form. So that's very important to make sure that that is correct.
So the only thing I would add to that is that the Secretary of State had planned to add this year and rolled out this year an absentee ballot tracker. So you can go to the Secretary of State's voting website to track the status of your absentee ballot, whether they've received your request, whether it's been mailed out, whether it's been received back to your Board of Elections. And I would also add, a lot of people have been asking questions about, well, what if my ballot doesn't come on time? If you don't receive your absentee ballot by mail in time, if you don't receive it by Election Day, or if you don't think you're going to be able to return it on time, that does not prevent you from voting in person. You would go to your regular polling place, or if you want to vote early in person, to the Board of Elections, although there's a different early in person location in Trumbull County, and say that you requested but have not yet received an absentee ballot and you'd like to cast a ballot. You will cast a provisional ballot if that's the case, but the provision is that you did not already return an absentee ballot. So those are guaranteed to be counted as long as they don't have a ballot on record for you yet. So
I would like to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just gonna, in summary, it doesn't prevent you from voting.
This is Barb. I'd like to also add that we are doing voter registration, but we are taking their applications to voter registration and putting them in the box. We tell anyone that's able, if they want to fill out their forms, please do not put them in the mail. Take them and put them in the box. And that way you know it's there. And if people are not able to do that, I can give you my number. I'll come and get them and take them for them.
Yeah, I think that's important. Barbara, I've been saying some of the same thing to some folks. But I think it's important also to clarify a couple things. First of all, that box outside, the box we're referring to is the box out in front of the Board of Elections, and there's one in front of the Board of Elections in Mahoning County. There's also one on Youngstown Road in front of the Board of Elections in Trumbull County. It is you can go there 24/7 and return your forms. It is important to note that the only forms that someone else can return for you are your applications, right? So the form that Annette was speaking about was that, folks were, those forms weren't getting accepted. That was the absentee ballot application, which is essentially the request telling the Board of Elections, please send my ballot to my home so I can complete my vote there. Once that ballot does come to your house, that either has to be postmarked by you, or you personally should be the person to take it to that drop box outside of the Board of Elections and return that yourself. But if you and some family members are interested in voting by mail and you want to print out absentee ballot applications, one person in the household can take all of those absentee ballot applications to that drop box all at once and get those things submitted all together. So I think that's just an important clarification to make. I will say that too. The one more thing is that related to the Secretary of State website and tracking your absentee ballot, as the Trumbull County Board of Elections website does have there's a voter section right across the top at the heading. And if you click on any of those questions that drop down on that menu, it will essentially take you to a voter resource website that will allow you to both check your polling place, which I encourage everyone to do if you plan to vote at your actual polling place on Election Day, because several of them have changed. But then also the button is there on that voter resource website. Whatever question you begin with, it will take you right to a place where you can track your absentee ballot. And I believe it will also be the place when you first go there, it will show you that your absentee ballot request has been received and that you will be mailed a ballot. So I encourage that too. Please do follow up.
I have a quick question, but I want to also provide folks with the Warren Board of Election number, which is 330-369-4050. So that's 330-369-4050, and that's for the Warren Board of Election. I have a question though. So let's just say you register somebody in Warren, but they live in Youngstown. Can you drop that ballot off in a Warren box?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is that boards of elections and the Secretary of State are obligated to return those forms to the correct Board of Elections. Ideally, you would get everyone's forms to the county yourself. But for instance, we had an event last year where we had people from Cuyahoga County that registered to vote at Silly Science Sunday. I'm not driving to Cleveland to make sure they get there, but your Board of Elections is obligated to get them to the right place. And I know that there's some strange little cutouts in Liberty, especially some of which are technically Mahoning County. So it can be difficult to know which county is the right county anyway.
I also want to stress too for early voting, and I think this is another avenue that we really need to discuss. But with the early voting, we do have people in the Warren area that will be providing rides from October 6th all the way up until November 2nd. I will have this information posted on Trumbull County NAACP Facebook page, but one of the numbers that you can contact is 330-718-5224. This is being sponsored by A. Philip Randolph Institute, and we are also in support of assisting them with any additional rides that may be available. So if you want to do early voting, I'm going to recommend, if you can't get to the polls, we are providing transportation to the polls, and you can reach out to that number to schedule a time for transportation.
As a follow-up question, because my dad is a Trumbull County resident and has wanted to help give rides to the polls, how can people volunteer for that?
If they call that number, the 330-718-5224, they will add them to their list.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I would think that's a good time to say too that if you are going to vote early in person in Trumbull County, in years past, what we've done is we go to the Board of Elections and walk right into that particular office, and you and vote in there. However, this year it's different. If you're not taking a ride to the polls with someone else and you're driving yourself there, you will be going to the building that is right next door. It's, the Board of Elections is almost on a corner there. This is the building closer to the corner. It's the old Chase Bank. For this election, the Trumbull County Board of Elections has secured that space to allow for more people to be able to come in and be able to safely distance and follow more COVID protocols. And so we'll be using that space next door for early in-person voting as of October 6th and following all the way through that early voting schedule that ends on 2 p.m. November 2nd.
All right, thank you all for those responses. That was super informative. I know I learned a lot from that discussion, and I hope the audience did as well. I have another question I wanted to pose, and if you want to discuss this like more of a discussion style of a question, then that'll be great. The question is, why is a high voter turnout important for our community to reach their health, social, and economic goals? And then how is the census similar to that?
I would like to start off with the census component of that. Currently in Warren, we've only received 58% of people responding to the census. The census is how we get a lot of the funding for a lot of the nonprofit organizations, for schools. So this is very important, especially for an area that has a poverty level of 65.5%. This is dear to what is needed for healthcare and for all other social services that we need the funding in our communities. So we have until September 30th. You can respond to the census online. Census takers will be in the communities on foot. And we only have a couple of weeks to get an increase in the response. We would love to have a 90% component of people turning in their census information, because once again, we do need the funding with COVID and the effect of what's going on, and a lot of businesses right now aren't able to provide different things for our organizations, especially for the nonprofit. This is something that we need to do for Warren and for Trumbull County and Mahoning County.
And I would add on to that the importance of the census component. The census is also how redistricting lines are drawn, the decennial census. So every 10 years, it's in the Constitution, how we decide what representation means is the census. So we want about equal representation across the country. The census tracts translate into congressional representation at the national level and at the state level. So it's really important to fill out the census to make sure that your community is getting proportional representation in Congress.
I would like to add something to that also. The census is a means for tracking people. So maybe you have a elderly grandparent or parent that doesn't have their birth certificate, and there's no way for you to find it. You can go to the census, and they will check their census records to see whether or not that person was signed up for the census, and that is a way to be able to prove that they were alive at that time so they can get their Social Security cards.
One of the things that we learned this past weekend, we had one of the representatives from Summit County at our NAACP meeting, and the students that are in college, The location of their university is where their positions count towards the census, not for the locality that they actually live in, but where they're going to school at. So when you look at Trumbull County, we really don't have any in-housing dorms or student population in our area. So it's really important for us to ensure that we are getting the count to where it's needed. And I also want to piggyback on when you look at the representation. We stand to lose representation in our area on the federal level because of the population decrease in Northeastern Ohio in our region. So again, we need to make sure that those numbers are increased and they're represented. But once again, I just want to highlight, if you're at a college, where you attend college is where your position will count towards the census.
I don't think anyone has commented on the voting and health and safety in our communities. So I would just say really briefly that voting is how you make your priorities for your community known. If you don't vote, if you don't speak at like the bare minimum level, Congress isn't going to know what your community needs. And we really need in Northeast Ohio a lot of infrastructure spending. There is a big gap in my specialty as an academic. I study the rights of pregnant women. There's a big gap in infant maternal mortality between Black and white women in this area. And we have a high infant mortality rate compared to the rest of the country to begin with. Infant and maternal mortality are one of the measures that's actually used to gauge the health of the community overall. And there have been numerous studies that link voting patterns to infant and maternal mortality. In communities that vote more, and as communities vote more, levels of infant maternal mortality tend to decrease. That's because you're getting more representation in Congress. The priority of your community's health and safety is before Congress, and you're getting more money to help deal with that problem because you have a representative that's fighting for you, that is aware of those concerns. So if that's something that matters to you, voting should definitely matter to you too.
And I would say also with healthcare, because I am a healthcare administrator, when you look at the depletion of what's going on in the Valley regarding to healthcare, there's a correlation between what's going on right now with COVID and the various communities of color in relationship to funding. We still don't have PPE equipment available. Facilities across Ohio, the senior citizens that are in the actual facilities have not been tested. Mm-hmm. So I always say your voice is your vote counts. Is very important that we ensure that the disparities are recognized in this upcoming election, because again, COVID is only a systematic result of what's going on across our country, and in particular in our Valley. So if we want to have change, not only do we need to vote because of this is a presidential election, but we also need to look at some of the local issues, the state issues that are going on. We have major concerns with climate and environment in our Valley. We have injection wells that are affecting our health. So we need to have people that are representing our voice locally, on the state level, and also on the national level. If we open our doors and just look out at what's going on in our cities, that should be enough incentive to tell you, I need to make this change happen.
And and I would say too, Annette, that I 100% agree with you. And the idea that of what, when we think about what we're seeing in our community and what we have seen in our community for the past several decades here in the Valley, when we compare that to election participation and the way in which voter turnout has changed over these last several decades, the disparities have only been allowed to grow. The more disengaged, the less active our electorate has become. And so I think this is a time to say, not only is it important for each and every one of us to take our own personal responsibility and get ourselves to the polls and make sure we get our ballot, but let's talk to our folks. Let's talk to our family members. Let's talk to our neighbors. We all need to make a commitment to ourselves and to our community for all the effort that we try to, we know people who are trying to rebuild it. That's not going to mean nothing if we don't just reach out to our neighbors and our friends and our family members again and say, okay, you're voting, right? Let's go. You need a ride? I'll go with you. You want me to help you get some information? Here's the phone number. Here's the website. We have to start bringing each other to the polls and making sure we're having a conversation. I know we shy away from talking about politics with family members now. We really can't afford to do that anymore. People are dying because people aren't voting. So we really need to make sure that that we are as engaged as possible and that we see that this isn't just about one vote, one presidential election. We've got to be active citizens overall, right? We've got to vote in all of our local races. We've got to make sure we're completing that census. Otherwise, the issues that are facing our communities all across the valley are only going to continue to get worse.
I just want to share one other thing. When you look at currently what's going on with COVID, the CARES Act, the funding that was provided for Trumbull County, Mahoning County, where's the transparency of where that money is going? Where is it being spent? How is it going to be in place for the community, that areas that really need that? So again, it goes back to the elected officials. I always say, just don't vote party line. Do your homework on the candidates. You have to do your homework. On our Facebook page, we also have what's called the report card. So if you want to see how the congressman voted on the federal level, there's a report card of every elected official from the state of Ohio and every civil rights issue that they voted on and their percentages. So we have to educate ourselves on who we're voting for and the results of the vote. Thank you.
Definitely. And the League of Women Voters in Trumbull County is putting out their annual voter guide. League of Women Voters of Greater Youngstown is putting out our voter guide, and we're publishing it. I think the majority of local news organizations we have been in touch with, and they'll publish the voter guide from the League of Women Voters Greater Youngstown in both English and Spanish. This is the first year we've translated the voter guide into Spanish, but I'm an East Sider on Youngstown myself, and just knocking doors in my own neighborhood, there's been a big uptick of people answering the door and speaking Spanish primarily. So we felt it was really important to be inclusive to the community this year, and we're trying to get it out. It's a difficult year to distribute physical copies of the voter guide, but we're doing that too. And the League of Women Voters in Trumbull County is also doing the same thing.
Can I take 1 second to go back to the census, because I didn't hear anyone mention children in the census. The lady from the census said that children under 5 are not being counted. So we need to remind the parents that everyone in household should be counted.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all the answers. I think there is a lot of definitely, similar civic traits to the census and voter registration, especially when it comes to representation for the people and to be able to meet those goals. And that was nice to see everyone discuss that. The third question I have, since we're all community organizers and, we find different ways to find and achieve our goals, especially with this, what goal or what have you found to be the most useful for your organization with engaging residents to achieve a higher voter registration count and to make sure that people are filling out their ballots? What have you seen to be the most successful approaches for that? And that question is open for anybody to start with.
We've used all kind of tools. You almost have to change your hat with the people that you're working with. seniors, again, aren't going to be on Instagram and Facebook page. So we do different campaigns for different levels of people in the community. In NAACP, we have what's called the bus, and the bus has all the information across the country. My particular location is Trumbull County. So every resident that resides in Trumbull County, we have access to how they voted, where they shopped at, all types of information. So with just one tweet out or one push of an email, I can send out information to practically everybody that's registered in what we consider the bus. So we do have a youth NAACP that are also going to have boots on the ground. We do have a rollout on September 19th. This is in conjunction with the Urban League and APRI and Minister Alliance, and there are other organizations that are involved. It would be held at Second Baptist Church. It is a get out to vote, and we're also doing census. So September 19th, I think the hours are from 10 until 4, and this is at Second Baptist Church on Main Street.
Because because we do, our organization is in the process of doing census. We've been doing them ever since last month. I find that when you do person to person and you do it, each one, bring one. If someone does their census and you say to them, do you have any family members in your family that has not done their census or they haven't done their voter registration, tell them we're doing it today, and if you bring them back, we can sign them up right now. That does work, because a lot of times people listen to a warm body before they listen to the computer.
That's right.
When a lot of times people in our target demographic at the League of Women Voters don't have internet access at home, so it's really hard to reach them by computer. We've made it our mission for the past couple years in the League of Women Voters here in Mahoning County and in Greater Youngstown to canvass the purge list. Whenever a new purge happens, we get the list from the Secretary of State, from the Board of Elections. We cut it into canvassing lists, and we go out and try to find the people on those lists. And those lists are disproportionately made from low-income communities, from majority minority communities, especially Black communities. They're people that move frequently. And so people in the neighborhoods that are where the purge list is concentrated are less likely to have internet access. They're less likely to have transportation that's reliable. They're less likely to have a phone that's reliable throughout the month. And so one of our strategies to reach those people has been just to knock on their door. That's a little bit more challenging this year. We've had great success in having drive-through voter registration events that are in conjunction with other community resources. Mercy Health has been a great partner. We've been working with them to distribute information through their food boxes. They've come to our events and said, hey, we have information. We have packets of free stuff for people. Direction Home has been a great partner to us as well. That's formerly the Area Agency on Aging. So partnering up with people that have community resources for the community, making ourselves available at a variety of locations near where people are, and trying to get the word out however we can. I'm going to steal that strategy of telling people to bring back a friend, though. That's great.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the thing that I would say in response to Isaac's question. Is Liz sort of touched on it. I feel like the most important thing we can do, especially in these last few weeks, is we really need to go to where people are already going to be. As much as we can, and I know, Miles, we want to plug, we're going to be, voter registration is going to continue at the Warren Farmers Market until that voter registration deadline, and we want folks to come join us out there next Tuesday for sure. But the other thing we need to make sure that we're doing, and any organizations that are trying to support this work are doing as this window for the voter registration deadline closes, is to find out where the people are going to go and send your volunteers there. I think setting up your own stand-up events and trying to promote those things in this window of time. There's too many places that other people are trying to go to get things they need, to get food, to get meals, to get other resources. If you can just plug and pop a couple of your own volunteers there and get that information to people there, then I think that's the best way to go right now.
Yeah, it's kind of late to schedule events.
I also want to
right now we're going to food banks. So
Right.
we're covering as many food banks as we can. And that's pretty good contact because you got a lot of people that haven't registered to vote.
And I also want to share, Barbara is a dual hat. She's also an NAACP member. We've also been covering, it's called Community Volunteer Council, where I am on the board there, where we have been registering people coming through for food pickup. Also the Warren Rescue Mission. I don't think that there's a thing with, when I say demographics, right now, I think all the areas in our Trumbull County are in need. And with that being said, trying to reach out to anyone that may be a transient resident, we can connect through the mission and through some of the other giveaways at our churches. We have involved our Minister Alliance to basically get the word out also for register to vote. So we are basically piggybacking and everybody's working together in unison to try to get the people registered and also to get them to the polls.
Yeah, and I think I would just like to add, I think we've continued, I think everybody said it, you know, going back and talking to the, sounds like everybody is going back to the grassroots way of organizing, you know, even during COVID. I think that's where our strength lies. And I think we've all been doing a great job of that. So I just want to highlight that.
All right, thank you for those responses. That was nice. We were able to, you know, learn from each other and different ways to go about voter registration. I think that's super useful. You know, if we are all in a room together, we should definitely learn from each other. That is the final question that I had for tonight. If anyone has any additional comments that they want to pose, that'd be great to do right now. If you want to do that, I just want to remind everyone to do their census. You can go to census.ohio.gov to fill that out if you want to self-report online. And then also register to vote. And if you, like Ms. Fennessy said, if you know somebody who hasn't done either of those, make sure they get those done. Make sure they fill them out. Make sure that, you know, bring somebody. Or if you know someone has trouble having internet access and they don't have internet, go to their house with your phone. You know, it's all about involving yourself with other people, and if it's a civic responsibility. So I'm gonna end with that. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. If Miles wanted to have some closing remarks too, but that's all that I have for tonight.
Yeah,
I'm going to plug something real quick. Hold up, Miles. I want to say, like, because I feel like the end is a good time to say this, related to anything that we've said. Absolutely, I know folks are going to play back this video, but it really is super simple. There's a lot of great websites out there, ohiovotes.org and voteohio.gov. Both of those websites are places where right there from your home, you can update your voter registration there online. You can request your absentee ballot applications. You can look up your polling places. You know, there's really a lot of easy access to those materials. So don't hesitate to reach out. And then I do want to say, I think when we said that the Trumbull County Board of Elections phone number, oh no, I think we got it right. Yeah, it was like 4050.
Okay.
I think 330-369-4050. That's right. So the most important thing I would say before we close up is just make sure that you're not sitting there hoping that you remembered everything that we said, but reach out for more help and keep looking things up, because it's just too important to let it go. And with that, thanks for having me, and I'll pass it off to Miles.
Yeah, I just want to say, in closing, we have a great group of folks on this call. So you have Ms. Barbara Fennessy, you have Liz from the League of Women Voters, Erica, Ms. Annette McCoy. This is to me the team that forms Voltron, you know, and just an amazing group of folks. So just thank everybody for watching and coming out and spending this time with us. Truly.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Cool.